Welcome to another edition to the Point Podcast. Everybody's doing well on this Thursday as the Stanley Cup playoffs, the NBA playoffs, they're winding down. It's sad to say with the conference finals in the NHL, they could be over as soon as Friday, possibly Saturday if we see Vegas get a victory tonight in Game 6 in Montreal. But one thing is for certain. We're going to see a Game 7 in the conference finals, and does it get much better than that? And that's going to be between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the New York Islanders, where last night the New York Islanders rallied a comeback in possibly the last game at Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum, coming from 2-0 down to defeat the Stanley Cup champions. And first of all, what a game. We're going to get into all that, but what they did, this team, it does not have a lot of firepower. And when we see who scored the goals last night, it wasn't, the regular cast of characters. It was not Matt Barzal. It wasn't Brock Nelson, Josh Bailey, but guys who needed to step up, who needed to have a moment in this series. And they did, finally. And now we head into a Game 7 where Tampa Bay Lightning are banged up and, they blow a game. But sticking to last night, the first 10 minutes of the hockey game, the New York Islanders they set the tone of how they wanted to play the game. And I thought the first 10 minutes, they really played well. The forecheck, the heavy hitting, the constant, they were getting in scrums, making life difficult. And the big theme between the New York Islanders and a team like the Montreal Canadiens, who were underdogs in both series, is that they're both so fantastic at eliminating ice. What I mean by that is you don't have time to make a pass. If you watch Game 5, Montreal, Vegas, when did Vegas have time? They didn't. They got the puck on their stick, and guess what? Nick Suzuki was turning the puck over from Mark Stone, then it was going down the ice, and Corey Perry found Cole Caulfield, and it was in the back of the net. Or you just don't have time to hold the puck. And the Islanders were on Tampa. Several times, I finally saw them do something that they haven't done all series. They glued themselves to Braden Point. He did score in the first period, but when he got the puck, they had 1 to 2 guys, rush to him. It was like an NBA game where a help defender was coming over to control him. And really, I think the big reason they did this was because of the absence of Nikita Kucherov. 45 seconds into the game, Kucherov leaves with looks like a shoulder injury after he took a cross check earlier in the shift. Then he goes to lay a hit on Matt Barzal. He never returned. Obviously a huge loss. He leads the entire playoffs in scoring. He's a Hart Trophy winner and plays on that top line with Braden Point and Andre Palat. So this forced Tampa to juggle lines. They had Yanni Gord take shifts with Stamkos and Kaloran basically the rest of the night. Cirelli became the de facto first line center playing with Palat and Point. And, it hurt their lineup. And for stretches of time in the second period, Ross Colton, he's a fourth line right winger. But again, another forward was lost. They had 10 forwards for about half the game last night. And, they're already without Eric Chernak, one of their top 4 defensemen. He's not pretty. He's big. He's mean. But what he does do is that he eats up minutes and he eats up players. People come to him. He's such a big man at 6'5" that you can't get around him. And he's a physical presence. Now, Luke Schenn has done a valiant job, but Luke Schenn isn't Eric Chernak. And have they lost the game because of Luke Schenn? No. But at the same time, it would be nice to have Eric Chernak, one of your top tier defensemen on the ice, at any given moment. So that was a theme last night. But like I said, it's just finding players to step up when you need them to. And we've seen that entire playoffs from guys like Braden Point, who in the first period scores his 14th of the postseason, and he scored in his 9th straight playoff game, which is one off the NHL record, which is just incredible. This guy does he score a lot of pretty goals? No, but he has this innate ability to get to open areas in front of the net. And he does it so effectively. He can just travel without getting killed a lot of the time and find an open spot. last night, he turns the puck over on the first goal. He's behind the net. He closes off the walls as the defenseman tries to rim it up the boards. It bounces off his shin pad, bounces to Anthony Cirelli. He throws the puck on net. Varlamov kicks it out, a little bit of a rebound. Braden Point puts the puck behind the net before the defenseman, Adam Pelech, can tie him up. And just like that, it's 1-0. And it's just, you could give me Connor McDavid. You could give me Austin Matthews. You could give me Leon Draisaitl. Name your player, Nathan McKinnon. And are they better than Braden Point? Yeah, they are. But when it comes to a playoff game, give me Braden Point. Because guess what? He's clutch. He's got more clutch in his feces than those guys have in their entire body. Now, that may be an unfair statement. Next year, say the team goes on a run. But right now, that's just a fact. This guy plays in the big moments. He might be a 70-point regular season player. Great. Patrice Bergeron is a 70-point regular season player, and he's pretty damn good. I think Nick Suzuki is going to have that same archetype of a career. I'll take him because I think he's going to be the next Patrice Bergeron. But it's just these certain players, you get to playoff time, they elevate. And nobody has done it more than Braden Point. But he opens the scoring 1-0. And I even texted a few friends and I said, Tampa scores the next goal, it's curtains. When we go through the second period, the New York Islanders had a huge 5-on-3 after Hedman took a tripping penalty, and then Coleman goes to the box soon after, and they couldn't score. So key blocks, big save by Vasilevsky and Matt Barzal, and that was a momentum killer. You know, you can't score in the 5-on-3. And then with about 7 minutes left in the second period, for the Anthony Cirelli, they're after a long shift, but he's fresh legs. Ryan Pulock is kind of just at the red line, middle of the ice, sleeping a little bit. Cirelli sneaks behind the defenseman after a beautiful pass from Sergachev, tape to tape. He goes in on a partial breakaway, beats Varlamov 5-hole, makes the game 2-0. At this point, it's curtains. That was my thought. I'm like, the Tampa Bay this is the Tampa Bay Lightning, defending Stanley Cup champs. They get a 2-0 lead. They won their series in Game 6 in Long Island last year. They can hold this off. We've seen them do it in this series. We've seen them do it all postseason long. They get a lead. They can win a game 2-1. You know, however you want to play the game, they can win it. But less than 2 minutes later, Jordan Eberle scores to make it 2-1. I said, okay, this is going to get interesting. A backhander from Eberle beats Vasilevsky. Good shot. I think Andre would want to have that goal back, but it's 2-1. And Eberle's a guy who needed to step up. He's been quiet in this series. He's been playing with Barzal all series long, but he hasn't exactly been a factor. Just being on the line is not good enough. You need guys to step up this time of year. Matt Barzal is another guy who has shown himself to be a playoff performer. He's been to a conference final back-to-back years. He's a win away from being in a Stanley Cup final. And you just need your complementary players to have a game every now and then. Eberle scores a goal. Huge for the team. That brings us into the third period. It's still a chippy game in the third period. Tampa's playing a little too restrictive. What I mean by that is they're not being aggressive enough. And I think they got a little confused with their lineup, missing Kucherov, missing guys in and out. And a guy, I love this guy. I think he's the best defenseman in the NHL. But I don't think Victor Hedman's been very good. All playoff, really. He just doesn't look himself to me. It's been reported that he may need off-season surgery. He might have the same timeline as Kucherov next year, or they could, manipulate the cap. He has surgery and it doesn't count, and then he comes back in playoff time. Well, if that's the case, he's injured. But if this is just a routine season, I don't think he's looked very good. And he just looks tentative with the puck. His skating isn't that great. And he's not that dominant force that he was last year. Last year, he was the best defenseman in the NHL, bar none, especially in the playoffs, scoring, not just getting goals, but the way he played, the way he shut down the opposition, playing against the top line every night and making a massive impact on every game. I don't see that this year. To me, Tampa's best defenseman has been Ryan McDonagh. It's just the simple things he does with his stick, eliminating scoring opportunities, blocking shots, easy transitions out of the zone. And I just don't see that in Victor Hedman. More often than not, Victor Hedman creates more problems. Last night, the shift before the tying goal, he gets stuck out there for a minute and a half because he can't make a simple pass to break it out of the zone. And then he stuck out there for a long time. And the Islanders kept building momentum. And with 8:25 left, Matt Barzal finds Scott Mayfield streaking down. No defenseman really comes out to challenge him. Vasilevsky's got his glove up, not high enough, as Mayfield puts it over his glove in the top corner. The game's tied at 2. And it's at this point, I'm like, well, the building's going crazy at Nassau. It always is, but it's an old barn. They're moving to a new stadium next year. This could possibly be the last game at the arena. And going into overtime, after nobody found the back of the net in the last 8 minutes of the game, I said to myself, I'm wrong tonight. The Islanders are winning, because there's just something about tonight where they lose 8-0 in game 5. An embarrassing loss where Tampa jumped on them early. They just cleaned them. Tampa looked like a team against an AHL team. And the Islanders are just better than that. They got a coach in Barry Trotz who knows his team, who knows they're just full of pride and that they would not have that same showing. And to their credit, they didn't. They came out last night and were the better team. And it didn't take long. 1:08 into overtime, Blake Coleman's got the puck, looking to break it out of the zone. He turns it over, terrible turnover, right on the tape of Anthony Beauvillier right in front of the net. He takes a beautiful wrister, beats Vasilevsky over the glove, and that seals it. Makes it 3-2. Beauvillier's first goal of the series, and the Islanders force Game 7 back in Tampa on Friday night. And for Beauvillier, a guy in the second round who was fantastic against the Boston Bruins. If you listen to the podcast, I said he's a rising star. This series, he's really been quiet. He's been playing with Nelson and Bailey. Bailey stepped up in Game 4. We've seen Nelson score goals, but that line's been quieter than they should be in this series. But sometimes it's just about the timing, and they needed a goal, and he provided it. And now it's winner take all. A Stanley Cup final berth is on the line. The Islanders missed out on that last year. Tampa achieved that goal. But we're looking at Game 7 and things that I can point out to say how they favor both teams. For Tampa Bay, I didn't think Andrei Vasilevsky had a great game last night. Looking at the tape, I'm sure today he would agree with me. But what do we know about Andrei Vasilevsky? In his last 13 games following a loss, he's 13-0 with a .967 save percentage. It's pretty damn good. That's since the 2020 playoffs, since the start of the 2020 playoffs. Following a loss, he's 13-0 with 3 shutouts, including 2 in this playoff to seal series. And what do we know about Tampa? They know how to win big games. They did it last year. They did it against Carolina. They did it against the Islanders. Last year, they won Game 6 in overtime, so they don't get to do that again. But they've been in these situations. They played in these big games. Now, as this core, the last time they played in a Game 7, they lost it. Against the Washington Capitals in 2018, they were up 3-2 in the series. They lose Game 6 and Game 7. Who's the coach of that Washington Capitals team? Barry Trotz. And it's a way different roster. They had Alex Ovechkin and Nick Backstrom and, Evgeny Kuznetsov playing, the best hockey he's played in his career. But it's still tangible. It's still something you can point to. It has almost the exact same coaching staff as they do here in Long Island. And for Long Island, the biggest thing they have good players. They know how to play hockey. But what they have is belief. They believe that they can beat the Tampa Bay Lightning on the road in Game 7. That's not an easy task. Tampa's going to be a loud building too. It's not going to be easy to get that win in there, but they truly believe that they can do it. And sometimes that's all you need. It's just that sense of belief that we're going to go in there and we're going to win this game tonight. And I believe they can do it because they fight and they claw and they find a way to do it. But who's going to come out with their ass cheeks a little tighter in Game 7? Sometimes that's who's going to be nervous. Are we going to see some nerves from these teams? Anthony Beauvillier, Matt Barzal, Pollock, Mayfield. So their big boys have never played in a Game 7. Brayden Point has felt the pain of losing a Game 7. Steven Stamkos has felt the pain of losing a Game 7. Now, that doesn't always mean everything, but it's an experience. They have that experience of losing that game. But Barry Trotz can, instill in them, I did this in 2018 with this team. We're halfway there. We won Game 6. Let's go win on the road. We won on the road in Game 1. We can do it again. And I'd point to last night's stuff. Obviously, they had a couple mental lapses. That second goal, Pollock, you can't let Cirelli get behind you. That was just a really poor play. But can you shut down the opposition? Keep eliminating ice. The run and gun style is not going to help the Islanders. And you're not going to have the crowd to fuel you. But one thing, it's a key element of this game is Kucherov going to play? He didn't play the entire game. He played 45 seconds last night. The first shift, he never returned. That doesn't bode well for missing an entire game Wednesday and saying Friday, okay, I'm going to give it a go. But who knows? It's Nikita Kucherov. The guy missed the entire year with hip surgery. Maybe he finds a way to play. But I'm sure they're cautiously optimistic, but I don't like the odds of him playing. So he's out. If he is, one thing that really affects is their power play. We saw last night, Kucherov is the magician, so to speak. He's the guy who breaks the puck into the zone, and then they settle it down. Brayden Point did it last night, but it's not the same. And it's not the same having Tyler Johnson on the other side of the ice and not Nikita Kucherov. You need that threat. He can shoot or he can pass, and they're both lethal. Tyler Johnson's a very good player, but he's not Nikita Kucherov. He just provides a different element. And credit to the Islanders. You don't play hockey trying to hurt people. What I mean is you don't check a guy from behind hoping to break his neck. That if you are, you're not playing the game the right way. But what you do in these playoff series is you hit them, hoping to injure them enough. And maybe they're still playing, but they're hindered. They can't be what they are. In this case, Nikita Kucherov, long playoff. He's played a lot of hockey. He didn't play all regular season, so he doesn't have that built-up immunity, maybe a little bit. And he leaves the game after wear and tear. The Islanders, that's one thing I said, Tampa, before the series, Tampa wants to finish this early, thinking that they'd win the series because the Islanders are going to take every pound of flesh they can. And maybe Tampa wins Game 7. But is Kucherov going to be healthy? Is Chernak going to be healthy? Because if the Montreal Canadiens or Vegas Golden Knights advance, they're going to get an advantage by not having to play against those guys. So the Islanders indirectly may be doing the Montreal Canadiens, just for an example, a favor by not having a Hart Trophy winner in Nikita Kucherov on the ice. So that's just something to pinpoint too. But for this Game 7, I look at guys like Matt Barzal, Brayden Point. This is your moment. Can you deliver? Brayden Point, I have no worry about. And if he doesn't score in Game 7, that doesn't mean he's not clutch. He scored 9 straight playoff games. The guy's a stud. But I mentioned Steven Stamkos in Game 5. He showed up. I think Anthony Cirelli was Tampa's best forward last night. I love him more and more watching him. He scores big goals. He scored a Memorial Cup winning goal for the Oshawa Generals. He's been in those moments. Can he deliver a big goal? Victor Hedman, what do you got? This Tampa team, they won a cup last year, but losing in this round is not good enough for them. They want to repeat. They want to, win cups, potentially 3, go on a run here, a dynasty. Losing to New York Islanders is not in their plans. So Hedman, what do you have left physically? Can you help this team propel them to a victory? We'll see. And, Barzal, Beauvillier scores a big goal, but they're going to need a guy like Josh Bailey, who's been a lifer in Long Island for life. Can you have a night? Can you help this team advance to their first cup final in a very long time? And that's the question here. But Game 7, Friday night in Tampa. We'll talk about it more tomorrow. But good for the Islanders. They come back from 2-0 down. They play their style, and they find a way to win the game. And, Barry Trotz, he's made adjustments all series long, putting Palmieri on with Barzal. But what it came down to was just players making plays. Scott Mayfield scores a goal. He's not a guy who scores a ton of goals, but he scores one last night. Eberle's had a quiet postseason, in my opinion. Scores a goal last night. Beauvillier, quiet series, beats Vasilevsky over the glove. And now it's a coin flip. To Game 7, who will find a way to win? We'll see. But we do have a Game 6 tonight in the National Hockey League, where the Vegas Golden Knights and Montreal Canadiens are heading back to La Belle Province to play for potentially, they're playing for all the marbles when it comes to Vegas. Vegas in Game 5, they were, I heard this narrative that they were a no-show in Game 5, and I completely disagree with that. That's not giving Montreal enough credit. And people can hate Montreal because if you're a Leaf fan or if you're a Boston fan, you're butthurt that your team couldn't win. And the Montreal Canadiens, well, they wouldn't have made the playoffs if it wasn't for this system. Okay. Well, the Toronto Maple Leafs wouldn't have been as dominant if they weren't playing in the Canadian division either. So maybe they would have played Tampa in the first round. They would have got beaten in 4. So let's just pump the brakes on all of it. But one thing we can say is the Montreal Canadiens are in this position. You can not like it. You can disagree with it. It can hurt your feelings that your team's out and this lesser team is playing. I don't care. They're playing. And I said at the beginning of the year, the Montreal Canadiens are a playoff team. They're built like a playoff team. I thought just the way they're built, they don't have a superstar yet. They don't have a player that you look at other than Carey Price. And you look at them and say, well, they're going to have a guy who's going to be in the running for the Hart Trophy or the Rocket year after year. And they won't. Maybe I think they'll have a Selke contender and Nick Suzuki, but they don't have a player like that. What they do have is just a balanced lineup. I looked at their team and I said, in the playoffs, you got Suzuki at center. Then you got a shutdown center in Philip Dono. Then you got, KK, Jesperi Kotkaniemi. And then you got guys, fourth. I didn't think Corey Perry would be this good, but I said Corey Perry's a playoff player. We saw that last year in Dallas where people thought his career was over. He found a way to be effective, and it continues. But they just have balance. And their top 4 defensemen, no doubt, they're not great regular season defensemen because the game is so fast. But the way Montreal plays, speed is not the most important element of their game. And when they win, it's because they're playing their style. And it's just eliminating ice and capitalizing on opportunities. Look at last night's game. 2 goals are off turnovers. Where the Eric Stahl goal, Suzuki has the puck. 2 guys converge on him. He finds Eric Stahl at the top of the slot. He risks one, beats Marc-Andre Fleury. Again, on the Caulfield goal, Suzuki turns the puck over from Stone, goes back the other way. Corey Perry has the puck. I don't know why 2 guys converge on Corey Perry, but both defensemen go to him, leave Caulfield wide open. He beats Fleury. Caulfield's got the best shot on the team. Why the hell are you doing this? But Montreal is turning the puck over and capitalizing on those opportunities. And I got to give credit to their top 4 defensemen. The way these guys play is just systematic. Weber, Sherratt, Petrie, Edmondson, they just don't give Vegas anything. Mark Stone has been saying he's been a no-show is me doing him a favor. The guy's been irrelevant in this series. The most notable thing he's done in this series is throw a hissy fit after he turned the puck over on the third goal, on the Caulfield goal in Game 5. I noticed him finally. I said, oh, there's Mark Stone. He's slamming the door, breaking his stick because he can't do anything to help his team win. Max Pacioretty scored a goal in the third period. The game was over. They have 4 goals by forwards in this series. Stone, Pacioretty, they got Stevenson back. That line didn't help. And it's a credit to Montreal. And in Game 5, they decided to go back with Marc-Andre Fleury. I get that decision. He's a guy that's loved for sure across the league. I don't totally understand it, but he's a beloved figure, no doubt. And they give him the start in Game 5, and they would have lost Game 5 with Robin Leonard because Montreal played a perfect playoff game, and I mean that perfect. You know, they bowled a perfect game, so to speak. They didn't give them anything, and you got to appreciate that. But I just, for Vegas, it's got to be frustrating. But it's more about Montreal to me and how they play. Now, can Vegas win tonight? You bet. Now, it's gonna be tough. You're in Montreal. You look at the series, Game 1. I think Vegas was the better team. Game 2, Montreal was a better team. They won. Game 3, Vegas was a much better team. Montreal won. Game 4, Montreal was the better team. Vegas won. So it's been a weird series where sometimes the best team is not rewarded. And, you know, Game 5, Montreal was the better team and they're being rewarded. But for Vegas tonight, I'm going to say this again, and this is not against Marc-Andre Fleury because, like I said, Robin Leonard would have lost Game 5. Robin Leonard will be starting in net tonight for me. This is more about just the psyche of your team. Marc-Andre Fleury has lost his last 3 starts in this series. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. That's not opinion. That's not good omen going into Game 6. And the guy's not exactly been fantastic in the playoffs. I get people love Marc-Andre Fleury, and he's a good French Canadian, and he's a Pittsburgh Penguin, and he's just a good guy. But what's he done? What have you done for me lately in the playoffs? Come up small. In Pittsburgh, they ran him out of town, and moving him to the bench, it resulted in them winning back-to-back Stanley Cups. Again, not a fact. I mean, not conjecture, not opinion. That's a fact. He made it to a cup final in Vegas in 2018. Yeah, but they lost the Washington Capitals. The following year against the San Jose Sharks, they had a 4-1 lead in the third period of the first round. He lets in 3 goals and then the OT winner. That's no good. And then last year in the bubble, he wasn't against Dallas. He wasn't that great. And they go to Leonard, and it's just been back and forth. But Leonard won his last start, and he was great. And he won. Where did he win that start? Montreal. The last time Fleury started at Montreal, he gave the puck to Josh Sanderson on a silver platter, and he put it in the back of the net. I'd go with Leonard. He's won in that building. He's been in that situation. And if Vegas loses Game 4, that's basically what it is tonight. You're done. If they would have lost in Game 4, the series is over in 5. But Leonard got a win and put them in position to have a best of 3. Can they get a win tonight? We'll see. For me, obviously goaltending is important, but Mark Stone, you are one of my favorite players. You're So great at both ends, but you need to show up tonight. You don't have a point in the series. You're 0 for 5. Get on the scoreboard tonight. Pacioretty, you know you're going to be booed tonight. You've been hearing it all series. You take it on the chin, but do something productive. I love Alex Tuck. I think he's a factor every time he's on the ice, but you got to put up a point. You can't just be out there skating fast and then you get rewarded. I say great things about you for doing that. You need to do something tangible, and putting the puck in the back of the net is the key to that. But for Montreal, play the game you played in Game 5 and in Game 2. Eliminate ice. And, we talk about stars emerging in the playoffs, and Nick Suzuki is a blossoming star. This guy is really, really good. I think Caulfield's legit too, but I'm just going to talk about Suzuki because in Game 5, he had 3 points, but it's not just about the points. And that's lost upon. A lot of times it's, well, this player only had 70 points last year. Okay. Well, what was the record? How did their team do in the playoffs? Suzuki, I don't think he'll ever be a 100-point player. He may never hit 85 to 90, but this guy has the innate ability to play both ends so effectively. His back check is the best. He skates back. He eliminates opportunities in front. He knows what to do. He's great at face-offs, and he just plays the game the right way. And where was he drafted? The Vegas Golden Knights, and he was traded for Pacioretty. So you've got to look at that in this series where Nick Suzuki at 21 has been better than Pacioretty. Pacioretty was traded to Vegas to be a big piece to them winning a Stanley Cup. Well, they traded Suzuki. He's been better than Pacioretty in this series. And that's got to hurt for Vegas, because if they lose the series to Montreal, where Suzuki, to me, Suzuki has been the best player in this series. I've had this argument with people before saying, Carey Price is the best player for Montreal every night. That's not true. So the other night, Suzuki was their best player. Price, you didn't even know he's there. Vegas couldn't get anything done. It was just a perfect team effort. Game 4, was Price the best player for Montreal Canadiens? No, he let in a really bad goal by Brayden McNabb. I think in this series as a whole, looking at the 5 games so far as we head into Game 6, I believe Nick Suzuki has been the best player, not Carey Price. So this is something to think about, and we'll see what happens tonight. But for Vegas, this is a huge, huge game. Huge. You got Alex Pietrangelo in the offseason. You traded for Max Pacioretty a few years back. You signed Mark Stone to an 8-year, $8 million extension. You went all in. You're early in your franchise. But it's going to come a time where you have no salary cap, which they don't already. And guys are just going to get older. You need to win when you have that opportunity. And for them to lose, I think we've heard this all playoff. To lose to Montreal, Toronto said that. I think Winnipeg had that same thought. Losing to Montreal is turning out to be, there's no shame in that, because guess what? This team is just a really good team. Point blank. You might not like them because you're a Toronto fan, or, they're Montreal and you don't like the cut of their jib, but they find a way to do it. They don't have their head coach on the bench. They still are performing at a very high level. But we'll see tonight. Interest to me who starts in goal. We'll see what kind of night Stone and Pacioretty put together. And, Riley Smith and Jonathan Marchessault as well. Can they do anything, to help their team win? That's a key question heading into tonight. And we'll see what comes of a massive Game 6 at the Bell Center tonight in Montreal. Now, the NBA Conference Finals started on Sunday afternoon with the Phoenix Suns defeating the Clippers by 6 points after a huge game from Devin Booker, where he recorded his first career triple-double in the NBA with 40 points, 10 rebounds, 11 assists. And they played their second game Tuesday night. And it was a crazy game. Phoenix basically led the entire night. They're still without Chris Paul, who tested positive for COVID-19. the Los Angeles Clippers are without Kawhi Leonard, who they haven't said this directly, but it's reported that he has an ACL injury, potentially tore his ACL, but he's still recovering in Los Angeles. So they haven't ruled him out for the series. But that could just be a decoy. We see teams do that all the time. So we go into game 2, where Cameron Artis-Payne is the point guard inserted into the starting lineup. And this guy's had a long career. Drafted 14th overall. He's battled 5 different NBA franchises, played overseas, played in the G League. But the other night, he just a fantastic game where he gets a double-double. He makes big shots down the stretch. He's getting assists to DeAndre Ayton, and he was their best player. Devin Booker shot the ball terribly. He was great in game 1, but they were tough defending him. Nicholas Batum deserves a ton of credit and just making his life difficult. Patrick Beverley took him a lot, who's one of the best defenders in the NBA. And Devin Booker didn't have a great game. But guys like Cameron Artis-Payne and DeAndre Ayton, the former number 1 overall pick, really stepped up in his absence. DeAndre Ayton had 24 points, 14 rebounds. He's looking like an elite big man. Does he have a 3-point shot? No. But he can shoot from 15, 18 feet. He's not just a center that can dunk and score from 2 feet out. This guy's got some range, and he keeps getting better year after year, and he's great, getting offensive rebounds and, being a rim protector on the defensive end. The game's going down, and the Clippers continue to chip away. Luke Kennard gets hot. He makes 3 3-pointers in the 4th quarter. We see Paul George, who had been struggling all night, heat up. He scores 8 points in the last 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And at 45 seconds, he makes a big shot to put the Clippers up 1. So Clippers are up 1. Phoenix gets the ball. Devin Booker scores right away. It only takes 4 seconds off the clock. Paul George gets the ball back, goes back down the floor, makes another key clutch shot, and puts them up by a point. Devin Booker gets the ball back. Next possession, he misses the shot. Rebound by Paul George. They decide to foul. And this is really the key moment of the game. A lot of time had been wasted. There's no time, not a lot of time, and Paul George goes to the free throw line. Now, Paul George had gone to the free throw line 141 times that season with the opportunity to make both free throws. He had made both free throws in those opportunities 140 times. But Tuesday night, he missed both of them. Just a clutch moment where you got to make your free throws. We've seen guys like LeBron James struggle in these moments where you got to make them both, at least make one, and you miss both of them. Miss the first one long, first one kind of rimmed out, second one long. Bridges grabs the offensive rebound. They call timeout. Now, there's only 0.8 seconds left on the clock. So whatever you're going to have to do, it's going to be a quick play. Whether you inbound, you find Devin Booker, you get a screen, he throws the ball up. But something you can do, I didn't know this till the other night, in the final minutes of a game, is that there's no such thing as offensive goaltending, which means that you can put your hands in the rim, so to speak. You can touch the cylinder. And Jay Crowder is doing the inbound pass. He throws the ball up. DeAndre Ayton breaks off a screen by Devin Booker, which is unheard of because Devin Booker's their scorer. Normally Ayton setting the screen for him, but Ayton goes to the rim and he alley-oops it home, and the crowd just going wild in Phoenix. But there's a sense of confusion because did he touch the ball? A lot of people thought Crowder the inbound pass went in, which it did look like that, but Ayton got his hand on the ball and the ball went through, and that turned out to be the game-winning play for the Phoenix Suns. They score with 0.8 of a second left. They win the game by a point, and they take a 2-0 series lead, winning both games in Phoenix. And just a tough loss for the Clippers. In a road game where Paul George wasn't spectacular, but you stay in it where your role players like Luke Kennard and Reggie Jackson really play well for you, but you don't win. Now you have to go back to Los Angeles, likely with Chris Paul returning tonight, and try to win. And looking ahead, what it's going to be very difficult because Paul George, you had your moment and you blew it. And, the Clippers are accustomed to this. And the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, they lost both the first 2 games to start both series. But this is just different. You don't have Kawhi Leonard anymore. He went legend in games 3 and 4 in both of those series, and he was the man. It's unlikely he's going to play. He's also such a great defender. You don't suspect that Devin Booker is going to score 18 points in tonight's game or in game 4. Now, are the Clippers out of it? No, because we've seen them play great. But if Chris Paul returns, then you have even more versatility on the floor for the Phoenix Suns, where the Clippers are going to be trailing. The Clippers are going to be looking for more answers. Can Luke Kennard have another big game? Is Zubac capable of doing this again? What is Paul George? Is he a clutch player? We had a moment where we wanted him to be clutch, and he came up small. And I think this is different in the other 2 series where Kawhi Leonard is there and Paul George could have been a complimentary superstar. You don't have that option anymore. He's injured. He's not available. Now you got to look at Paul George and say, we need you to be the man here. You're the only option. Terrence Mann's a second-year player. He was great in Game 6 against Utah. But is he going to score 40 points again? Unlikely. Patrick Beverley's a great defender. But his offensive game is, null and void. We can't have that. So you need a guy like Reggie Jackson to continue doing what he's doing, but he can only do so much. He's been fantastic in this postseason. Marcus Morris Sr., he's hit and miss. He wasn't great in the first 2 games of the series. So going home, role players seem to play better on home court. Maybe he gives you a better effort tonight, which I think he will, but there's also been reports that he's dinged. So maybe he's not 100%. So we'll see, but just Phoenix has such a balanced lineup. They got Devin Booker, who is a superstar, had a rough game too, but he helped his team win. You got Chris Paul, who wants a title more than anybody in this playoffs, and I believe that to my core. It would help him in the all-time point guard race, I believe, a ton. And at his age, being 37, you don't get many other opportunities to win a title, and they're 2 games away from his first career NBA Finals, where he hasn't played a game yet and they're up 2-0. It's a pretty good position to be in. But I'm not ruling out the Clippers, but I do think this is going to be different. This is not the first 2 rounds, and they're going to have to really, really play well. They're going to need the role players to step up and be elite in this series if they're going to move on and win here. But maybe they will. Maybe this is a time where a guy like Marcus Morris Sr. will find his game. Injury or not, he will come up big for the Los Angeles Clippers. But Game 3 goes tonight in Los Angeles. And it's been reported that Chris Paul is probable to play. He's been quarantining in Los Angeles. So if he can get some negative tests, he should be eligible to play. So we'll see what he's got after being away from basketball for, I believe, 12 days now. So that's a long time without playing, and maybe his legs won't be all the way there. I don't suspect we'll see him play as many minutes as he has so far in the playoffs. The Eastern Conference Final started last night, where 2 teams you didn't expect to see. Obviously, the Brooklyn Nets were the heavy favorites all season long. They get beat by the Milwaukee Bucks after they get some injuries and things like that. Then you got Philly in the East. Miami was a sleeper team, but Philly loses to the Atlanta Hawks, the pesky Atlanta Hawks, who just under Nate McMillan have found some new success, have found some confidence, and have just shocked the world all season long. So we got Milwaukee, Atlanta. Atlanta coming into last night had never won a game in the conference final. Milwaukee had not been to an NBA final since, the days of Oscar Robertson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So we look at last night, and what a first half from Trae Young. 30 points in the first half. He's shooting the ball, doing everything that he can, and just being the great player that he is. I mentioned Trae Young being a blossoming star who's not afraid of the big moment. I'd much rather have a guy who's not afraid of the big moment and maybe make a poor decision than a guy who's afraid to take the shot in that big moment. And Trae Young is just a guy who will take those big shots, and he might miss it, but he's not afraid to take it, to have the look and have it there for him on a silver platter and go for it. And the first half was really him versus Giannis. Giannis was being great on the glass because really nobody can defend him. They have Capella on him, but it's a tough matchup for Capella because Giannis is so athletic and can get to the rim with ease. But to his credit, Capella did a decent job. But we had Giannis, who was going off on the other side. Drew Holiday, who had a tough second round, started off game one with a bang. He was really a superstar all night, not afraid to make the shot, and was firing it great from 3-point range. So at the half, the Hawks are stuck 6. But they keep playing. And it's the thing about these Hawks. Trae Young had 30 in the first half. He had a decent second half when it comes to scoring. But what did they get? They got some balanced scoring. John Collins stepped up in the second quarter with he had 12 points in the third quarter, and he started playing really, really well. He also rebounded the ball. Last night, John Collins had 15 rebounds. You had a guy like Clint Capella, who his scoring is basically getting lobs and, pick and roll to the paint and putting the ball up. But what he does do is rebound. He had 19 rebounds last night. That's huge against this Milwaukee team where Giannis is a rebound machine, but they were rebounding the ball extremely well. Bogdanović, he's normally an elite guard for this team. He only had 4 points in 27 minutes, and he looks hurt to me. He doesn't look confident. He's tentative, turning the ball over, but, he's hurt. We go down the stretch where Milwaukee, I look at the big fault of their game. They weren't rebounding. I mentioned, Collins had 15 rebounds. Capella had 19. Trae Young, a small guard, had 7. Giannis had 12, but PJ Tucker 7. Lopez, a center, had 2. Holiday only had 4. Middleton 5. Their second leading rebounder was Bobby Portis off the bench. He only played 15 minutes. He had 8 rebounds. And it just extra possessions for the Hawks where their 3-point shooting was very good last night. They had the stroke. It's not always pretty, but both teams struggled from 3-point range. Don't get me wrong. 25% for the Hawks, 22.2% for the Bucks, but they were getting extra possessions. They were getting to the paint. And what they did do is they capitalized on their free throws. They shot 14 for 16, and Milwaukee was good as well, as 11 for 14. But it was the rebounds, extra possessions that really fueled them. But down the stretch, Milwaukee's up 1. Trae Young knocks down a huge 3-pointer to put them up 2. And then they go down the floor. Holiday misses a shot. They have to foul Trae Young. And in the last 30 seconds, I just mentioned Paul George. And it's called being clutch, being just in the moment. Trae Young makes 4 free throws in the last 30 seconds to ice the game. To his credit, Giannis made 2 free throws, and he's not a very good free throw shooter, but he made them. He made them to keep the game close. But Trae Young, last night, he goes 48 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists in his first career NBA conference final game. Now, did he shoot the ball that well? No, 17 for 34, 4 for 13 from 3-point range. He's not a good 3-point shooter, but he just finds a way. His runner in the lane, it's impossible to guard. And he gets 11 assists. In the third quarter, he's feeding John Collins. And there's times where Trae Young was scoring so much in the first half, you need a break. So give the ball to John Collins. Lob it to Clint Capella. Get some guys to step up and make some big shots. But this game was the Trae Young game. It was him being an elite player. And, Middleton had a chance to tie the game in the last 10 seconds. With 6 seconds, he takes the shot, misses it. They don't have time to foul. That's ball game. They win it, 114-111. But this is what Atlanta did in the second round against Philly. They won game 1 on the road. They get the split already. That's one thing they can point to and say, you know what, we have the split. And does that mean anything? Well, I believe Milwaukee will win game 2 on Friday, but they found a way to win. You get the split, you go back home, and for them, you got to look at this game. The template for Nate McMillan is we need to continue rebounding, because I believe Bobby Portis is going to play more minutes in game 2. He should anyway. When he was on the floor, he was dominant. He was making his threes. He was getting in the paint, getting offensive rebounds. I mean, he's their second leading rebounder. If you're Mike Budenholzer, you got to tell Brook Lopez, yeah, I get it. You're a center who shoots threes, but get your ass in the paint. 2 rebounds, that's just not acceptable. 2 rebounds as a center. I need you to do something productive out there. Grab a board. Clint Capella's a beast. Yes, I think he's the best rebounder in the NBA. But Giannis, Brook, take him. He can't get 19. He can't just, chew up rebounds. We need to get some second possessions, because that's what Atlanta did effectively in this game. And, Holiday, whoever's guarding Trae Young, put 2 guys. It's a tough position, because if he's shooting from 3, give him that shot. And he's going to burn you at times. But you see last night, he shoots 4 for 13. Don't converge multiple guys on him, because then he's going to have you're going to cheat, and then Kevin Huerter is going to be open for a 3. Or he'll throw the ball to Clint Capella. Leave him out there and see if he'll shoot the shot early, and he might miss a bunch. You get some points, and then he's got to pivot his game. But give him that 3-point shot if he wants it, because that's the weakness of his game. He's not a 3-point shooter yet. Him and Devin Booker are blossoming stars in these playoffs, but neither of them have a great 3-point shot. They're mid-range players. Don't give them their strength. Let them have their weakness, and if they beat you, they beat you. But it's the same for Atlanta. Giannis is dominant in the paint. If he wants to shoot threes all night, allow him to. If Milwaukee wants to be a 3-point shooting team, allow them to, Hawks. We see Pat Connaughton with 40 seconds left. He has a 3-point shot to tie it. He airballed it. Just a straight airball. Nothing but air on that one. And give them that. Middleton, he's a decent 3-point shooter, but both these teams, their strength is the mid-range. Atlanta Hawks' best 3-point shooter is Bogdanovich. He's injured. He's got no confidence shooting. He looks like a hampered player. So the key to this team is if a team can get hot from 3. They've all shot terrible from 3 last night. But their mid-range game, the rebounds, this could be old school basketball, in that the team that rebounds, the team that plays the best defense and hampers the team's best player from doing what they want to do is going to win it. Give Trae Young his 3-point shot. Give Giannis his 3-point shot if you're Atlanta, and then hope that other guys step up. Trae Young is going to get his points. Giannis, they're going to get 30 points a game in this series just by the mid-range. I mean, it's the NBA. You can only guard so well. But make life difficult on them, and don't give them freebies at what they're best at. Too many times Trae Young had free walks to the paint last night. Drew Holiday, if you're an elite 2A player, be one. If you're Atlanta, you can only control Giannis. I think last night they did a decent job with Giannis because he's so dominant. He had 34 points. He almost had a triple-double. But for Capella, it's a tough matchup for you to guard him, no doubt. You played 37 minutes last night. That's good 37 minutes where you got to guard Giannis the entire time, because really, you look at their team, who else do they have? They don't have anybody. Gallinari cannot guard Giannis. Solomon Hill cannot. So credit to Capella. But another thing for Milwaukee, maybe target Capella early in game 2, because if he gets in foul trouble, Atlanta's in trouble because they don't have anybody that they can turn to that can guard him. No, John Collins cannot guard Giannis, and if he does, he'll get into foul trouble early too, and that bodes well for Milwaukee. But credit to Atlanta, they win game 1 on the road in Milwaukee. They won game 1 on the road in New York. They won game 1 on the road in Philadelphia, and they won both those series. So we'll see if they can turn that into. This would be an improbable run for a 5th seed in the East to make it to the NBA final in back-to-back seasons, with the Miami Heat being a 5th seed, making it to the final in the NBA bubble last season. So just a great story so far for Atlanta as they continue to try to push towards NBA final. but I think we will see some good pushback from the Greek Freaking Company in Game 2 Friday night. As you can hear, Dirk, the To The Point mascot, is not happy with me this morning, wants some attention. But before we wrap up, I want to talk about Major League Baseball and their spider tack issue. And if you haven't heard about this, is a couple weeks ago, it was talked about how pitchers are using spider tack. They can use sunscreen to help them with their grip. And it can be an advantage, but baseball looked into it. It was something that players kind of complained about. And baseball said, okay, well, we're gonna get rid of this. No more spider tack. If you get caught using spider tack, it's a 10-game suspension and basically 2 starts if you're a pitcher. But you're still gonna get paid. So yeah, big deterrent. But since that happened, we've heard from pitchers like Tyler Glass now, who said, I can't use sunscreen anymore. You can't use any substance to help you get grip. And now what umpires do, they're checking players between innings to see if they have any foreign substance. So it is sunscreen, spider tack, and they check their hat, they check their fingers, and they also check between their belt. And this has gotten a lot of attention because pitchers are getting pissed off because they're getting checked multiple times a game. And really the key headliner in this is Washington Nationals ace Max Scherzer, where Joe Girardi had him checked 3 separate times on Tuesday night. And Scherzer was just put up with it. At one point, he takes his belt, unbuckles it, basically was ready to pull his pants down for the umpires to check him out. And as he walked off the field for the 3rd time in 5 innings of getting checked, he gave Philadelphia Phillies manager Joe Girardi a death stare. And Scherzer is one of the most competitive players in Major League Baseball. And he just stared at him. And Girardi gave it back to him, swearing at him. And Girardi was eventually tossed because he goes out and looks at the umpires. Dave Martinez comes out for the Nationals. But this is just Major League Baseball being incompetent again. Now, do I have a problem with them eliminating spider tack from the game or sunscreen or helping pitchers? No, because pitchers are already dominating the batters enough. So they don't need another advantage. But you don't set up this rule in the middle of the season. That's something you don't do because players aren't ready for it. You don't spring it on them and say, okay, next week you can't do this. It's just stupid. You talk about it after the season and you implement the new rule. It's unfair to pitchers. And first of all, you shouldn't be able to just ask for Max Scherzer to be checked multiple times a game. It should be a limit. It should be a cap. Okay, we're going to check you before the game, and maybe by the 5th inning, we'll check you again. 2 times. That's the max. It's not 3-4 times. It's not Joe Girardi saying, well, Max Scherzer, I've never seen him rub behind his head before, and then you go give him a look. That's not how this should work. You need a system. And this is just baseball being stupid again. For the longest time, they were okay with steroids. And then finally, the court of public opinion, aka sensible people, said, yeah, we're not okay with steroids. Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, get these guys out of here. Roger Clemens, they're not Hall of Famers. They're drug cheats. And this is different, the spider tack issue and sunscreen and getting better grip. But it's just implement a system that you can follow year round, that players know about before it happens. Don't say, okay, tomorrow we're going to start doing this. That's not how you give people a warning in life. And baseball didn't do this for the pitchers here. And we see it. Sergio Romo, the Oakland Athletics, he's a reliever. He got pissed off the other night too, where he takes his belt buckle off, basically throws it at the ump and says, here, what do you want to see? And I don't know where this is going to go, but it looks terrible on baseball that their pitchers are getting looked at like this. And for a guy like Max Scherzer, I know he's going to take it personally. And does this create more controversy? Phillies and Nationals don't like each other enough. They're in the same division. But Joe Girardi comes off looking like an asshole here. And, he looks stupid, number one, because I think he did it as gamesmanship, but also Max Scherzer, you don't want to piss off that guy. This guy's a cyborg on the mound, and he's not afraid to to do. He does whatever he has to do to win. The guy's the ultimate competitor. But I just thought I'd bring that up. We'll see it where it progresses, this grip issue in Major League Baseball. But I think it's so stupid that baseball implemented it, a week ago when you could have did it in the off season, let them play out this year, because you knew this was happening 2-3 years ago, and you just started in the middle of June. Just incompetence from Major League Baseball. But baseball is moving along on the season. This week, Padres swept the Dodgers. They've won 7 of their last 8 games against the Dodgers. And, more impressive this week, Padres beat starting pitchers Julio Urias, Clayton Kershaw, and Trevor Bauer. This rivalry is going to go on all year, I hope. I mean, these two are battling for second place. The San Francisco Giants continue to be the shock of MLB as they win another game yesterday where Kevin Gausman and Shohei Ohtani just went on a pitching duel. Ohtani giving up 1 run over 6, Gausman giving up 1 run over 7, where the Giants ended up winning 9-3 in extra innings. But a lot of good baseball we're seeing across the board. Blue Jays have won 4 in a row now as they head into another should be this tantalizing series with the Baltimore Orioles. But we'll get more into baseball as these other seasons wind down. But everybody, thanks for tuning in today. Hope you enjoy it. Sorry for the noise from Dirk, but she's got a mind of her own. Enjoy the day, enjoy the weather, and we'll talk soon.